Proverbs 17:22 says, "A joyful heart is good medicine." Have you ever heard that laughter is the best medicine? I mean, well, we've all heard that laughter is the best medicine. And honestly, over the years, I actually have a background in comedy. I have found that to be so true, that sometimes a belly laugh, just watching a funny movie, listening to some stand-up comedy is the best medicine. Comedy is just something that connects us. It unites us. When we can laugh together, we feel closer together. My guest today is using his gift of making people laugh to change lives. Welcome to Business with Purpose. I'm your host, Molly Stillman of Still Being Molly, and this show is all about bringing you the stories behind the brands, companies, and small businesses that are changing the world. Each week, I interview an entrepreneur, CEO, nonprofit director, community leader, or just an incredible person who's trying to make a positive impact, not only through their personal life, but also with their career. My goal is to show you that no matter what you do for a living, you can make an impact wherever you are. My guest this week is Kevin Fredericks, aka KevOnStage, with nearly 5 million combined followers across social media and nearly 140 million views on YouTube. Kevin Fredericks, aka KevOnStage, is an El Paso, Texas native and fast-rising entertainer. Kev serves as an actor, comedian, playwright, producer, director, filmmaker, and full-on content creator. Standing at the forefront of the fastest-moving technology trend, social media, Kev has already sold out a 50-city self-produced tour, wrote and produced a Nickelodeon sketch comedy show, wrote, directed, and produced 2 movies, and grew comedy and entertainment platform All Deaf Digital from 300,000 fans to over 10 million. I love KevOnStage. I have been a huge fan of his for quite a while, and so I was honored to have him on the show. We laughed so hard throughout this entire show, and I know you will too. Man, it was so good. And so without further ado, on to my chat with Kev. I am so pumped to have the KevOnStage, Kevin Fredericks, on the show this morning. And Kevin, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me. It's my dear pleasure to be on.
Well, I have to, before we dive into the Kevin 101, I just want to say that I realize you probably get this all the time when, as a comedian, and you travel and people are like, "Oh man, I do comedy. Like I do stand up. Let me tell you a joke." I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to tell you a joke. But I am a former comedian. I did improv.
Oh, you really are?
Yeah, I really am. I did improv and sketch comedy for 15 years. I tried my hand at stand up, and that is not my, that's not me. I like to just make stuff up on the spot. So that's why I liked improv. But I have dreamed.
I'm a big fan of improv.
Yes.
I did improv in college.
Oh, that's awesome. Where did you do improv?
Well, I just took some classes. I think it was called Jet City Improv in Seattle.
Yeah.
Or maybe I just watched them perform. I don't know. Maybe I'm having revisionist history and making myself more than what I want. But I do like doing improv.
It's so much fun. But I have dreamed of having a comedian on this show, and you are like episode 150 something. So it's taken 150 plus episodes, but finally I have a comedian on here, so I'm so excited.
Thank you so much.
Well, man, you just have just such an amazing resume, and I'm so excited to just really hear more of kind of the behind the scenes and more about who you are as a human. And so I'm going to have you give us what all our guests give us, and that is the Kev 101. So tell us who you are and what you do and how you got to kind of where you are today.
Okay. Well, I'm a stand-up comedian. I actually, my career kind of bounces around. I started with stand-up comedy. I did my first performance when I was in high school at a church talent show, and I kind of fell in love with it then. But I didn't, I wasn't doing it crazy. I just did it here, that one time. Then I did it a couple of times in college. In college, I was focusing on plays. My best friend and my brother and I, we wrote and directed original plays. We actually, when we didn't know what we were doing, we kind of did improv plays. We just did like, hey, we'll do this scene, this and that scene. And we just kept rehearsing it until we had, like a full hour and a half play. And then my brother and I wrote a play that won a play competition in college in the University of Washington, where I went, bow down to Washington. They produced our first play. So they, put it up and everything like that. My wife was the stage manager. So for the first couple of years of my performance life, I was focusing on that. And we got way to, producing these plays in Seattle. And we had Tyler Perry, or a guy with Tyler Perry he had booked Tyler Perry's plays, and we flew him out, and he loved our play, and he was like, we want to put this play up in Oakland for 2 days, and we were like, yes, we've made it. This is going to be the beginning of our career. And he said, all I need from you is $300,000 for you guys to put it up. We're like, what? Why would you need us? He's like, oh, that's how it works. You got to find your own investors. I helped you promote it. Put your own money up. And at that time, we all had small children, like literally 3 and 1-year-olds, or 4 and 2-year-olds. Actually, 5 and 3 with my son. So we all had kids under 5. And $300,000 might as well have been $8 billion. Like that was so much money. We probably didn't even have $1,000 in our bank accounts combined. So we were literally going to quit. We were going to quit doing plays and just focus on raising our kids. And I said, before we do that, let's try YouTube, because I had been watching YouTube at work all the time, much more than I actually did work. And I saw there were some people that I would follow that had made a career out of it. And I was like, I don't know if we can make a career out of it, but we can at least perform, funny sketches and stuff on YouTube, and maybe more people will know about us, and then we can travel our plays. So the guys were like, okay, look, we'll do this. If it doesn't work, no harm, no foul. We'll just go back to coaching our little kids, our sons and their basketball team. And the first 2 videos that we did together went viral. Literally, there was this trend going on called Stuff Girls Say, and we did stuff Black church girls say, and we did stuff Black parents say. And both of those videos went really viral. So we were like, oh man, this could work. And we switched all of our energy from live plays to YouTube. We were releasing a video a week, and probably our first 10, 12 videos went really viral. And this is when YouTube was the only video hosting site. So, we switched to YouTube then. And for the most part, since that day, video content on social media has played a huge role in everything I've done. I mean, we started getting paid from YouTube, not enough to quit our jobs, because we had to split 3 ways. And we had a credit card bill that I cannot go into detail with, because it upsets my wife when she listens to this episode. But we were making some income, and then I started my own channel and started my own videos, and I quit my job and started back doing stand-up comedy. For the most part, everything has come from the internet. All my successes have come from, putting funny videos on the internet. My son got booked in a Little Rascals remake that went straight to DVD, and we moved to LA. We were working for TV for a couple of years, which gave me my first 26 TV credits, writing sketches for my kids, directing and editing. And then I working for a digital media company years called All Deaf. And then last year I quit my job, and I've been doing YouTube, podcasts, and stand-up comedy, that combination for myself for the last 6 months.
That is so awesome. I love that kind of like roundabout way of becoming a playwright, and then just being like, oh, we're going to make viral videos on YouTube. But you have, oh gosh, your videos have now amassed over 140 million views on YouTube, which is just incredible. We just have to talk about this, because I have to talk about how I actually came across you. And the first video that I ever came across, I have watched it. I cannot even tell you how many times. I'm embarrassed to say that I maybe nearly peed myself the first time I watched it. I was laughing so hard. And that is the video where you talk about the day you found out Bobby Caldwell is white. And I could not stop laughing. So if you are listening to this episode and you have not seen this video, it's just the funniest thing. And I even showed it to my husband. He was crying laughing. I've sent it to every person I know, because you're just like incredulous. You're like, wait, but Bobby Caldwell is white? Like, the man who sings Do for Love is white? Like, I was sure he was black. And like,
absolutely. That was actually the day I found out that. That literally was the day. My brother posted that video. Like, I said that in the video, but I was still processing that information while I was making it. I was just like, everything's a lie. Everything I've ever known is a lie.
Well, it's just, yeah, because you're like, I called out sick. I like, what else? If this is true, like, what else is true? Like, what other lies have I been living? And, oh my gosh. But you're just like Bobby Caldwell is white as the summer day is long. Like, oh my gosh. And what was it that you said? He looked like Indiana Jones.
He does. He follows me on Twitter too now. We're best friends.
Oh my gosh. But then the other part that like just slayed me is, so in this video you're talking about how like you really, I can tell that you are just very surprised that Bobby Caldwell, What You Won't Do for Love, the singer of that song, is white. And
yes.
And you're talking about how like you're like no, Bobby Caldwell is the guy that every uncle like has like in his life, where he's like, you're gonna go down, you're gonna get yourself a Buick Skylark, get yourself like, and I oh my gosh, because it's so true. Like I grew up outside of Washington D.C. and so I grew up in a very diverse neighborhood, and I know like Bobby Caldwell, like my black friends' uncles talked about Bobby Caldwell and how you're gonna go down, you're gonna get yourself a Buick Skylark, and like what were those things? There was like, there was a couple other things that you said that just.
If you want it done right, you go to Bobby Caldwell. You just want it done, you don't go to Bobby Caldwell.
Yes.
But if you want it done right for a good price, you go see Bobby Caldwell.
You go see Bobby Caldwell. My husband and I were talking about this, and I was like, you know what? Like, white people, we have a Bobby Caldwell too. His name isn't Bobby Caldwell, but we do have one. His name is like Mac Wilson Jr. And like,
is it really?
Oh, yeah. That's his name, is Mac Wilson Jr. Everybody's got a Mac Wilson. Like every redneck in the South has a Mac Wilson, and like that's the guy that you call. Funny. You're like, oh yeah, you gotta go call down a Mac Wilson. You gotta he'll fix your septic tank. You take your pickup truck, he'll get you a load of mulch. Like
a load of mulch. I haven't heard that since I moved from Washington State.
Yeah. He'll fix your carburetor. He'll
wow, that's funny.
He'll winterize your windows. Like I'm telling you, like we have one too. So anyway, it really is one of those things that like every time I watch it, I laugh. And so when I came across that viral video, I was like, okay, well, this guy's hilarious. I need to follow him. And so it's just like you post videos like that just resonate with so many people. And it's like cross-cultural lines, intergenerational. Yeah. It's so good. When did you realize, like, as you were posting these videos, that a lot of that stuff, like a lot of the stuff that is a part of your comedy, is just you're taking bits and pieces of real life and you're just flipping it on its head a little bit. You're just kind of elevating it. At what point did you realize, like, this is something that I'm actually really good at?
I was doing sketches, and those were a lot harder. You've got to set up and meet and all that stuff. And then I was finding out, like, one thing I'd like to do on my own channel was just like make fun of everyday life. And I realized that, if people were on the internet, at least, relatability is more important than humor. Mm-hmm. People, if they agree with something, if they also thought Bobby Caldwell was white, they're more likely to share that video. Now, if it's relatable and funny, then you have the best of both worlds. But I tend to focus more on relatability. Like, that's why a lot of my fans grew up at the same time as me, because of the same childhood. We grew up without this, without that. But I feel like I want to say when we first started YouTube, I found that this would work. Finding out the relatability part was probably a couple of years later. Yeah. When I realizing that sometimes you don't have to put that much work into it, as far as like working like production setup. Just see something, and if you have this thought, then somebody else probably thinks that too. And if don't, bring them along to your point of view, which is something you do in stand-up comedy all the time. You show people your point of view of the world and hope they either see it that way too, or find the humor in seeing it your way.
Yeah. One of the other videos that I think about when you say sort of that, like, people who grew up in the same generation kind of find it relatable and funny. And that was the one where you talked about like the water that came out of the hose on the side of the house.
Yeah.
And like
that's exactly what I mean.
That is the most delicious water. It's rusty.
And we grew up, I grew up in El Paso, Texas. You grew up outside of Washington, D.C. Yeah. People grew up, my wife grew up, on military bases all over the world, yet we all drank that water because when we were growing up, our parents made us go outside.
Yes.
And we wanted to stay outside, and you couldn't come in. So they didn't have food for you. And I actually put that joke, that's in my set this year. They didn't even give us lunch. They you go eat breakfast and you don't come back until it's dark.
Yes.
So we were surviving nearly off of side of the house water, and it was amazing. And everybody agreed. Because we all had to drink it.
Yes. And you had, like, the key is you gotta let it run for 30 to 60 seconds. Yeah. Get that like boiling hot water.
Let the hot water out, all the dirt, whatever spiders just crawled in, all that stuff's got to come out. But when it comes back in smooth, oh my gosh, it's cool and crisp. Rust filled.
Probably getting tetanus, but is so
good.
Exactly. Yes, but it's that kind of stuff that just unites us. It's like we have all had that experience. Like, I love that. Yeah, you grew up in Texas. I grew up in DC. Your wife grew up all over. Yet, like, every kid that grew up kind of in the 80s and 90s, like, that is that's our childhood. And so that
exactly.
And you hit the nail on the head, especially when you talk about when it's relatable and funny. Now, one thing that I also know and really admire about you is how faith really has impacted your career and your family life. You grew up in the church. You're a comedian who is a Christian. You're not a Christian comedian. And I'd love for you to kind of talk a little bit about that part of you and how that has really kind of played into your comedy and how that's influenced the work that you do.
Yeah, my family is very religious. I'm very religious. We grew up, when it was very common to go to church literally 5-6 times a week. That's not even an exaggeration. Yeah. We literally went more days than we didn't go. Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday morning, all day Sunday, every day for the entirety of my childhood, majority of probably until I went to college. That's when I didn't have to go to church twice a week. And that's only because I was, in a different city. Mm-hmm. So that's a big part of who I am. The reason I say I'm a comedian who's a Christian is because it's just like an NBA player. You're not a Christian NBA player. You're just playing the NBA. You have to be the NBA, and you are a Christian as well. And the reason I use that disclaimer is because I found that people think you're a Christian comedian, then all your jokes are about, church and church related things. And I always have jokes about church, but there's a lot of other stuff in my life that's funny. My kids, my point of view, the way I grew up, my marriage, stuff that's happened to me. So I don't want people to think they're only going to hear jokes about the church. Sometimes I talk, my wife and marriage and married life, depending on the audience, so it's just more than jokes about what happens in this church versus that church. And I just think, that allows me to make fun of things like Bobby Carr. Some comedians, they focus on the church, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I could have done that, but that just limits how many videos I can make and how many topics I can speak on. So I just wanted the whole world to be able to, I wanted to be able to make fun of the whole world, I guess, including myself.
Yeah. No, that's a really important distinction. And I love that you made that connection between, like, you wouldn't say that you're a Christian NBA player. You're just an NBA player who happens to be a Christian. And you see that kind of more and more in a lot of fields where, let's just be honest, like, especially in the entertainment industry, it is harder to kind of see people who are in the entertainment industry wearing their faith very publicly, and people who kind of have their faith influence their content. And so, but I think that, like you said, it doesn't pigeonhole you into being like for one audience. And in a lot of ways, it gives you the opportunity. I mean, like, if Jesus is commanding us to go out to all the nations and spread the gospel, like, this is an opportunity for you to reach more people, because, you know, people who maybe aren't Christians can come to your shows and they think, man, this guy's really funny and there's something different about him, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, I have a lot of my shows in churches, and people will be like, man, I haven't been in a church in years, but I just wanted to see you live. Or they're on my page, and, you know, as I have successes, I always talk about God. Thank God. I always have, you know, little messages where I take things in regular life, and I did it. If your pastor preached on them, like, you know, I did one a couple weeks ago, the Lord is an Avenger, which is the real scripture. And I did that the week Avengers came out. Yeah. So of course you're going to start laughing, but sometimes people in the comments are like, man, this is the only church I see. You know, he was playing, but this low key a message, things like that.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's what my platform is for, to show that you can have a good life with God, and you know, all the things he's done for me, he can do for you, you know, that type of thing. And sometimes you'll find a good message amongst the jokes.
Okay, I'm so sorry to break from this conversation with Kev, but I wanted to take a moment to thank our sponsor, and that's the Happiness Planner. They are one of my absolute favorite companies because they design some of the most beautiful, inspirational planners, journals, and notepads. I love the Happiness Planner because it helps to keep me on track and find joys each and every day. They also have beautiful journals that focus on different themes, such as confidence, gratitude, growth mindset, and purpose. Great tools that help you become more self-aware, happier, and more fulfilled. And for those of you who like to use apps, the Happiness Planner is also available as a mobile and web app, which I love. Now, how is it different from other calendar and to-do list apps out there? Well, on top of schedule and to-do list, it comes with functions like monthly goal setting and reflections, meal and exercise recording, gratitude journaling, energy level trackers, and daily inspirational quotes and articles. You can check out their web app at thehappinessplanner.io or download the mobile apps from the App Store or Google Play. You can also download their printables for free from their website, thehappinessplanner.com. And you can use the coupon code LIVEWITHPURPOSE for 10% off. Now, back to my chat with Kev. I have this question that I've really always wanted to ask somebody who is a comedian who is also a Christian. And that is, I mean, so like I said at the beginning, I did a very brief stint at stand-up comedy. Sketch and improv was more my scene. But I've been to a lot of stand-up shows in my life. And there is some bad stand-up comedy out there. There is, there are some bad stand-ups. And sometimes you just want to like go up to those people and be like, "This, honey, it's time to sit down." But I've seen so many comedians and comics who will stand up on the stage and they are just bombing. Like, they are bombing. The audience is not feeling it. There are pity laughs left and right. And I've seen so many comics who, when they're not trained and they don't really know, they just start going like for shock value. And so they start dropping F-bombs and they start telling dirty jokes and stuff like that, which 9 times out of 10 does not win the audience back over. It just kind of digs yourself deeper in a hole. As somebody who, obviously, you have done a lot of shows, and you're a comedian who is a Christian, what do you do in those moments when you feel like, oh man, because every comic has had that show where you're just like, oh man, the audience is not giving me the feedback that I want, and instead of going for the shock value, what kind of tactics or strategies do you do, since you don't necessarily like pull an F-bomb out of your pocket?
Right. So there's a couple of different times this has happened in my career. Luckily, it's been, the thing is, if you're not getting paid like by a certain amount of time, you know, when it happened early and I was just having a bad set, I would just, hey, thank y'all so much. Good night. You know, like, it's totally okay to get off the stage if you are not doing your job, which is to make people laugh. You got 10 minutes and you're 7 minutes in and they haven't laughed. It's just, let's save us all some heartache and let those less 3 minutes, let the host figure out how to get the audience back, because he's usually a stronger comedian than you, or knows the audience a little bit better. When I was very young in comedy, I was hosting a step show and I had a terrible opening joke segment. And this was the beginning of a 3-hour thing. So that time I just jokes. I was supposed to be joking and introducing people in time. And I did none of those. I was just like, this audience, hey, I had already gotten booed. And it was 5 minutes into this 3-hour show. And I just was like, well, I'll just continue announcing the next steppers. And I will remove myself from the comedic part of this show. But my answer is just, I generally got off stage. Luckily now, at this level of my comedy, I have jokes that are kind of like foolproof. And the other part is now, for the most part, people are coming to see me because they're fans. So they're not, I don't have to, like early in my career, I had to prove to people that I was funny. So I dealt with that a lot more. But now people usually see my videos and they're excited to come see me. So I don't have to, prove to them that I'm funny. And I usually working new material amongst old material that works, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I even try it out on the internet, like that water hose video. I did that on the internet, and now that's a piece of my set, because not everybody has seen every video, and it works on stage in the midst of this section on kids that I'm doing. So those are my kind of tactics: either get off the stage early or focus on something that does well, and that's all I really have.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point, that now you're at a stage where the audience knows you, and so you've already won them over before you have even stepped on the stage. So that's a big part of being a comedian, is having that relationship with fans and the audience. And you've done such a great job through building your social media platform that, your fans are built in. Like, this is an audience that loves you, and they want to see you succeed. But man, those open mic nights, when you go to those open mic nights and you see those comics just bombing, and you're just, oh man, my heart breaks for them.
Yeah, I mean, I had to, and that's one of the reasons I am the comedian I am, is because I built my career on those stages. The first thing that I had to deal with last year was people didn't know I was a comedian. A lot of people didn't know I was a stand-up comedian, and there's a lot of stand-up comedians who started on social media, and then they've tried to go to stand-up, and they found out that it's really hard to do 30 minutes of stand-up if you haven't, built it up. But luckily, I had been doing stand-up the entire time. I was getting booked for stand-up before social media, and then back years from the 2012 viral videos, people were booking me then. It's just, once I really started going viral consistently, probably about 2 years ago, I started putting all my videos on Facebook and Instagram. As Facebook became video first, and as Instagram allowed you to do a minute, that really helped my career, because YouTube was a site that people go to search for videos. Facebook and Instagram is a site that you're already on. So you're much more likely to see my content there. But I thank the Lord that I was, and that's why my tour is called The Real Comedians of Social Media, is because we were all really doing comedy before social media. And we want you to know that you are going to get a good comedy show when you come see us. Yeah,
no, that's a great point. I've never thought about the fact that you go to YouTube, but you're already on Instagram and Facebook. And so when stuff kind of goes viral, it comes across your feed. I mean, and that's how I saw the Bobby Caldwell thing. That's how I saw the water hose thing, is that just people sharing it, and then I shared it. And so it's just, that's how content goes more easily viral. I mean, I think back into like the 2000, like the early days of YouTube, like 2007, 2008. And do you remember E-Bombs World?
Yeah, E-Bombs World, break.com. That's where you found all those, clips of people falling and cats playing the piano. I love that stuff.
Yes.
And I'm really grateful that, when I first started, you had to put a YouTube link in the in your caption for Facebook, and Instagram wasn't even around. So you had to be watching on video. But now there's so many platforms that are sharing video that I post video on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook.
Yeah.
All, you know what I mean? Because there's people who follow me on one platform, but no other ones. And you just, some things go viral on one and not on the other. Some go viral on all. I mean, hardly any go viral on all, but it's just a lot of clicking upload and
Yeah.
post.
Yeah. Yeah, and I haven't even really thought about it until just this very moment, but your comedy brings, I mean, that's the nature of comedy, is just it brings joy to people, but how social media has played such a huge role in your career, and how nowadays, like, you hear people, whenever I say that, I sound like a old, like, crotchety old woman. I'm like, man, nowadays, like the good old days. But nowadays, like, really, we hear so often about how social media is just like a cesspool of negativity, and like
Yeah.
how there's so much darkness. But by using social media as a platform for good, and how you've really used it to influence people in a positive way. What is your, like, at the end of the day, like, yes, you love to make people laugh. You love to create this great content for people to share. Like, what is your ultimate goal with your comedy? What's your motivation day in and day out?
My ultimate goal is to be able to produce long form content independently. That's movies. I use the term web series loosely because now, thanks to like Facebook watching things, the line between like what's on TV, quote unquote, and what's on, Facebook or whatever, it's blurred. Will Smith has a show on Facebook that could easily be on NBC or
Yeah.
MTV. So my goal is to be able to produce my own long form content and produce others, give people an opportunity to produce their movies or their web series or their TV shows, and produce mine. And just I could do that until the end of time. And I would always do stand up as well. Like the way Jerry Seinfeld made it doing his show, that he could just do stand up for the sheer fun of it, even though he still gets paid.
Yeah.
That's probably the closest example of what I want to do. If Tyler Perry and Jerry Seinfeld had a baby, that's me. I'm Tyler Seinfeld.
Perry and Jerry Seinfeld had a baby. That's quite a picture, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
But well, right now you are actually headlining you're headlining that Real Comedians of Social Media tour. You guys are going all over. You were in Raleigh in July, and you are just traveling. I mean, you're even going to the UK.
Yeah.
This is amazing. So tell us about kind of your current tour, and then what are your upcoming plans?
Yeah, the Real Comedian Social Media, this is our second tour, or second year touring. It's myself, Tony Baker, Tahir Moore, and Doughboy. And then my wife and I also do our live podcast, The Love Hour. We do that in most of the major cities at 6, and then we do the comedy show at 8. And we like traveling the world because of the internet, traveling the world and doing comedy and being able to independently promote this tour. There's literally no promoter, no investor. It's just me. I call and book the venues. Now I have a team that helps. But, in the beginning, I was calling and booking the venues directly, paying the deposits, doing all that stuff. So, that is a joy. And I also like doing the unscripted content, writing movies. Like I kind of enjoy them all equally. And I think that's one of the greatest parts about being creative and having options is I could do stand-up this day, and I have just as much joy doing stand-up as I do making a video. And I'm learning to play the piano because I want to challenge myself to create even more interesting comedy shows, because we don't have like I use the word traditional stand-up is because it's just you in that stage. But I grew up doing plays, so I like the more entertaining part of stand-up. Traditionally, comedians are like, don't do music, don't do that. It's hacky. But I found that a lot of people are coming to their first stand-up comedy show anyway. So
yeah.
I want to put on the most interesting show they could see. So, I just really enjoy where this is going, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. Mm-hmm. And I talked that much because I forgot what your initial question was.
No, I think that's awesome. No, that answered my question. And really, ultimately, it was, what are your upcoming plans? But I just think that is. Yeah,
I just had a show on Facebook Watch that just finished airing. It's called Kev on Everything, and that's an unscripted show where I go and, literally, I'm really confident and I think I can do anything. So I learned to be a hibachi chef, and I learned to be an MMA fighter, and trained with women and sparred with a woman, and she was attacking me. I was a mechanic. I I was a fitness coach. It was all type of random things. So, I had a lot of fun doing that. And, and you can watch that on Facebook. And I feel like, we used to make fun of that, oh, you're just on Facebook. But now there's shows on Facebook that get more, views than traditional linear television. So I'm proud of that. And it's giving people like me an opportunity to get those, to get these opportunities when otherwise you had to go the traditional Hollywood route. I think the best thing about the internet is it changed, and this is even outside of comedy, it changed what was traditional. If you needed to call a ride from the airport to your hotel, you took the shuttle or you called a cab.
Yeah.
Now you can Uber, you can Lyft. Now you can rent your own house as a hotel room. Like everything is not traditional. And a lot of companies and people are making, a lot of money finding out that using the internet is a way to even the playing field.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is such an amazing kind of example that you gave. Is just, there's so many shows. Like I love Jada Pinkett Smith's Red Table Talk.
Table Talk, yeah.
It's so good. And it gets like 50 million views an episode, which, I mean, what network cable show gets that many views? Like,
yeah, exactly. And that's like, so The View, for example, like The View, you have to be sitting at home with your TV on to watch The View.
Yep.
But for Red Table Talk, you can have your phone in your hand. You can be at work. You can pull it up.
Yep.
And when it's off, you can say, oh, what's that link? I wanted to watch it. You could put it, I used to commute an hour and a half to work, and I had a little thing in my window, and I would play TV shows in my car, podcasts. Like the thing about podcasts that I love so much is, when we were coming up, you want to listen to your favorite radio host, you had to click to their channel. You could only listen to people that were within your radio frequency. Now, because of the internet, you find a new podcast you like, it doesn't matter where that person lives.
Yep.
That's your podcast. You subscribe and you listen, you support them, you have ads just the same way that a radio station does. And it's allowed people like me and you to create an audience that's automatically all over the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's so dope because it wasn't like that before. And I think, if you're talented in any era, you would have made it. I think if you have a successful podcast, you were born 30 years ago, you would have found your way. But I think part of us, is figuring out how to do this in a ever-changing world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. It makes me think about the fact that I have a listener actually who lives in Ethiopia. And every week, like, she doesn't have internet in her home, but every week she goes to an internet cafe and downloads my podcast so she can binge it. And like, she sent me a message and I was just like, see, that is the power of the internet, is that this woman in Ethiopia walks to an internet cafe every week just to listen to this podcast. Isn't that crazy?
And isn't that such, like, it's so powerful yet, like, such a lot of pressure. It's like, you're doing all that to listen to little old me. That's how I feel, at least. Yeah. I'm just like, to me, I'm just making silly videos on the internet. Why would you walk to an internet cafe to listen to me?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But people like you, and they, you're their entertainment. It's just, it's just, people will find a way to find their entertainment.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Well, Kev, this has been just an amazing conversation. But before we go, we're going to transition just a little bit to one of my favorite parts of the show. And that's just where we ask some fun, get to know you questions. Even though we've gotten to know you, these are just kind of some fun, lighthearted questions. And as my listeners know, this is also the portion of the show where my executive producer husband, who is I call him my executive producer, he inserts like a movie clip or a sound effect to transition us to the get to know you round. So we never know what it's going to be. Although this week I have a feeling it's probably going to be Bobby Caldwell's What You Won't Do for Love.
Bobby Caldwell, and get you right every time.
Get you right every time. Gonna go down there and call Bobby Caldwell. Oh man. Okay, so Kev, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Bobby Caldwell sounds like the person your old uncle's always referencing in every story. You need a car, you go down, you see Bobby Caldwell over on Buick's on Main. Now, he gonna get you into a Skylark, and he gonna give you to a good price. You understand me? Now, Bobby Caldwell, you want to talk about somebody who could make some green. Now, usually men don't make the green, but Bobby Caldwell, that boy makes some green. Now, Bobby Caldwell, I went to school with him. We went down to Mud River High. Bobby Caldwell was a starting shooting guard for the Mud River Beaver Angles. And I said, Bobby Caldwell, you're going to take the winning shot, and Bobby Caldwell do it every time. Now, Bobby Caldwell Caldwell also went away, did a little time. He sold a little heroin. And you know what I'm saying? But we were selling heroin back in the day. Okay, all the great musicians was on heroin, and Bobby Caldwell was the man they came to see. You want to see something about a man, they're going to be Bobby Caldwell every time.
Now, you already said this earlier. You said about that you are the love child of Tyler Perry and Jerry Seinfeld. But is there like a single comedian that has influenced you the most, or would you say it's those two?
I think probably, well, there's a couple of different ones. Like my personal favorites are like Ernest J. He just was really physical with his comedy. Jonathan Slocum was the first comedian that I heard of that did comedy about the church. But Kevin Hart was the one who used social media to do tours. Yeah. And I probably feel like watching him was helping me be like, I could do that, because he, blew up and he used YouTube and things like that to his advantage. So I feel like Kevin Hart probably a good example.
All right, that's good. What song do you have to sing along with anytime you hear it? Like if it comes on, like you are contractually obligated to sing along.
Oh, that song is Weak by SWV.
Oh,
90s
yes.
R&B is such a big part of my life. And that song is the best 90s R&B song ever.
I get so weak in the
there
knees,
you
I
go.
can hardly speak. I lose all control. Yes.
See, I already started, and it was just you singing.
Yes.
I feel like I have a moral obligation.
So, okay, here's a fun fact about me. So I, when I was in elementary school, like my dream, if you had asked me, other than being on Saturday Night Live, my dream was to be in SWV because I thought, that this very white girl from the suburbs of Washington, D.C. would obviously be a great addition to Sisters with Voices. Obviously.
I think you're absolutely right.
Like
you're
that was
still a sister with a voice.
That was a very reasonable goal for me at that age.
Absolutely.
Oh man, I now love you even more. You're hilarious. That's awesome that we both love SWV. Okay. Is there a joke that you had in a set one time that you just thought was going to absolutely slay it, and it was crickets?
Oh man, that happens. That still happens to this day. Man, let me count the ways. I could give you an hour of jokes. Probably the most recent. Oh, man, what was one that just happened? Okay, this is unfortunate. This didn't happen to me. My friend and I were going over a joke about crab legs. He took I know it's not funny, but he took a girl to dinner, and they ordered crab legs. And she took him home in a doggy bag. And he thought that was so weird. Like, you can't take crab legs home. So we were, having a great time. Like, yeah, crab legs this. And what do you think about that? And what kind of person takes crab legs home? And he did it on stage. And the audience was just like, well, I would do that. They literally were saying, like, I would do that. So we're like, that was just way funnier in the van than in real life. So, yeah, that's crab legs in a doggy bag. Is funny on a road trip, not funny on stage.
That is, oh man, that's good. That's good. I would have laughed, but also I probably would have been like, oh yeah, maybe I'd probably take crab legs home and steam them. Yeah. Just when you get home, you just re-steam them, be fine. You can get some butter, melt it. Good to go. I got a crab leg cracker at home. I can get one of those things that just like cracks them open. The crab legs are so much work though.
They are. Okay, so I'm going to tell you this, Molly, okay? And you're going to have to not judge me.
I'm not judging you.
Okay. I don't know if I can say it, but I'm going to have to. Hey.
We're friends. It's okay. Listen, this is a safe zone.
I have been blessed to have a better financial situation these last couple of years than when I first started life. Now, at these fine restaurants, you can buy for an expense. They will give you the crab legs pre-cracked.
Wait, what?
Yes. So High Steakhouse in Hawaii. There's a place in LA. I just went to Shaw's Crab House in Chicago. And these are all within like the last couple of months. The crab legs are already steamed. The drawn butter is there. And they have taken the time to crack, like, I mean, you know the crab legs when you like crack it perfectly and the meat comes out like one long piece of glorious meat?
Yes.
All of them are like that.
What?
And it's like $95 sometimes. I literally did this in Chicago, and it was $95 for a pound and a half. And I was like, okay, that's a lot of meat. But it was literally two king crab legs. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just spent $90 on two of a crab's legs. But because they were pre-cracked, it was worth it.
And you save so much on time.
So,
like that time is worth it.
You have there's not so much like, when you crack them, the juice flies all over you, which is part of the experience. But also, it doesn't have to be that way anymore. You don't have to even worry about cracking your own crab legs. And that, my friend, is success.
That is success.
Pre-cracked crab legs is the life I never knew I needed.
Oh, that is amazing. Kev, that is amazing. You have just blown my mind and now have also set a goal for me that I did not know I needed to reach.
Yes. You got to hit me when you find a restaurant that does pre-cracked crab legs.
Oh, I will. I will. I will. All right. I have two more questions for you. And one of them is, I thought about asking this question because it's a question that I just genuinely want to know the answer to. And I feel like we're now at the point in our new friendship where
we're best friends.
Yeah, we're best friends, where I feel it's okay to ask this question. So as somebody who I live now in Durham, North Carolina, and
Hey!
Yeah, Durham. Do you know Durham? Yeah, you come to Durham?
Yeah, John P. Key, one of my favorite gospel singers, is from Durham, North Carolina, outside the county line.
That's awesome. Yeah, we love it here. I've been here 10 years now and wouldn't change it for the world. I love this area. But I hear all the time my Black friends talking about the cookout. Okay, and they talk about
the cookout restaurant or
the actual cookout, like the cookout, and they're like, you get invited to the cookout. And I know that a lot of times, like, white people will say, like, but I want to be invited to the cookout because it's kind of like a metaphor for, like, you just want to be cool, right?
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes.
But I have a question, because there is a literal cookout, not the restaurant, but there is a home that my husband and we drive past all the time. It's about a mile away from our house. And it is this family that every weekend they are throwing the most dope cookout I have ever seen in my life. And I want to know how to be invited.
Literally, I don't want to be invited to the proverbial community cookout. I want to go to their house and eat their food.
Because this is not a metaphor, okay? But I'm just wondering, because literally I have, and this is not like me being like, oh, like I'm a white person who says, oh, I have a Black friend. No, I'm really sorry.
Right.
No, this is not what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, literally all of growing up, my Black friends talked about the cookout.
Yeah.
In college, my Black friends talked about the cookout. And I'm like, guys, I just want an invite to the cookout. And now I see an actual cookout that looks amazing. Like, it starts out on Friday. They got like 30 cars out there. They got like 4 smokers, not like people smoking cigarettes, like, smoking meat. They've got like 8 grills out. Like, everybody's bringing a side dish. And I'm like, I would be really fun at this cookout. I will bring food. I promise not to put raisins or grapes in the potato salad.
I'm just going to say.
I promise.
That's to make sure you bring the right thing. And that's you. You already are on the right track.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, but literally it goes from Friday until like Sunday, and they are still out there cooking. And I'm like, man, that looks like last weekend they had a bouncy house. I was like,
yes,
this cookout looks amazing.
They're really doing it.
Yes. And so I just wanted to know if you had any advice for me as to how I could get invited to this cookout.
So here's the thing. You have to bring something, right?
Yeah.
And that's your first in. Now, obviously, you don't want to see the reason the potato salad is so important is Black people. That's like we love the potato salad. Imagine the green bean casserole at white people's Christmas or Thanksgiving.
Green bean casserole is disgusting. I will just say that, but I know what you're talking about.
You don't like it? Oh,
no.
You're already a step in there. But in a lot of white families, they love the green bean casserole, and only the best cook gets to make it. That's potato salad.
Okay.
For black people. See, that's where white people mess up. In their barbecues, the potato salad is just something you pick up from the store. It's like, oh, you might grab some, you might not. Macaroni salad, like in the black culture, the potato salad is how you judge a person's ability to even be at the barbecue. So stay away from that.
Okay, I won't do that.
Even if it's good, likely the person who's making it is somebody's mom or grandma, and you can't compete with their mom's cooking. It does. No. Yours could be better, but they can't say, "Oh yeah, your potato salad's killing my mom." It'd be a shame. They might feel that way, but they'll never say it. So what I would do is bring something that's cookout worthy that you really kill at. Maybe a dessert. Desserts are always safe.
Okay.
You bake an apple pie. You bring that. Hey, we saw you in the neighborhood. Food smells so good. We just want to, bring this apple pie over. Everybody loves apple pie, but if it's not the best apple pie, nobody's going to be upset.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, this person's great. And the key to black barbecue, you have to bring something.
Yeah.
Our barbecues are a community.
Yeah.
We can't throw them unless everybody pitches in. We just don't do it. I'm not going to front the bill for the whole barbecue. Why? You're going to eat some.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about cups and plates. You bring ribs.
Yeah.
I'll cook them. You bring chicken. Now we've got a community experience. So, you can either bring ribs to cook, but that's weird to bring raw meat.
Yeah.
On your first entry, it's like, hey, what are you doing with raw meat in your hand? So a great dessert is your best way in. It's an offering, living sacrifice, holy and acceptable, and that'll probably work.
Oh my gosh, this is the most valuable advice I've ever received in my life. Kev, I really appreciate you being this is interracial conversation goals right here. I love it.
Absolutely.
We can appreciate and respect and admire each other's cultures, and I just really want that invite. So I'm going to go home and I'm going to work on an apple pie recipe that is just going to sling
Perfect. Perfect.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And really, I just want to talk to my friends listening who are white. Why does everybody like green bean casserole? It's disgusting.
It's on the side of like every French onion bag or
Yes.
soup. They're like, here's how you make green bean casserole. Like, okay, people should know by now.
Yeah, no, it's not good. It's not good. Oh, man. Oh, this has been so much fun. Okay, Kev, this is my last question. This is the question I ask all my guests. And that is, what does it mean to you to run a business with purpose?
That's a great question. My purpose is, what it means to me is to do a business that I'm proud of, that my children can be proud of, and that uplifts and empowers those around me. I'm big on helping my friends and family grow. I don't want to be the person that's filthy rich and everybody around me that's helping me has to struggle. So I want to empower my people, help them, grow. Like the Real Comedians Tour is going to go on tour next year without me. And Tony Baker, who's featuring now, is going to be the headliner. And I'm going to continue investing in a tour. And I want Tony to reap the financial benefit and grow his presence in the world. And that's powerful to me. I'm working on a movie with a friend of mine who's writing the movie, and I'm going to produce it. We're going to make it together, and that'll be his first feature film that's written. One of our producers has a podcast. If she needs some help producing that's kind of what we're there for, is to help kind of bring everybody up around us. Not no hangers on, but people who are willing to work. My brother-in-law just quit his job and is now taking over merchandise for the business because it was growing too fast, and nobody on our current team could own it. Yeah. So business with purpose is empowering myself and others to achieve their goals.
Oh, that's so good. Kev, this has been just a joy. I am so grateful for you and just the way that you are making me laugh and making so many others, millions literally around the world, laugh each and every day. Thank you for what you're doing and the way that you model. Just you and your wife and your incredible, beautiful family. Y'all are awesome. So thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my goodness, I was so grateful for Kev coming on the show and just his willingness to just be real and honest and just have an open conversation. And he just made me laugh. I admire him and respect him and just adore him and his family so much. So I hope you loved this show too. I would love to know what you loved about this episode, maybe something that really just made you laugh. Let me know on social media. You can find me at Still Being Molly or at Business with Purpose Podcast on Instagram or Facebook. And be sure to tag at KevOnStage too when you share the episode. Don't forget to use that hashtag Business with Purpose Podcast. Another huge thank you to our sponsor, The Happiness Planner. Visit thehappinessplanner.com and use the coupon code Live with Purpose for 10% off. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. If you're a first-time listener of the show, welcome. Be sure to visit the archives for so many past shows featuring incredible entrepreneurs who are changing the world. And if you're a regular listener, thank you so much for your support week in and week out. Be sure to head on over to iTunes, Spotify, or your favorite podcast listening app and click that subscribe button to make sure that you never miss a new episode of the show. And while you're there, would you mind taking a moment to leave a review? Leaving a review helps me to know what you're liking and how the show is personally impacting you. This show is edited by my amazing husband and executive producer, John Stillman, with support from Kelly Dalton, and the music is by Mark Killian of Third Wheel Media. Thank you so much for listening. Now go do something good with purpose, on purpose.